Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. You're not enough for me. She said it like she was reciting a grocery list. Not with rage. Not even disappointment. Just flat, bored indifference. Like she'd been rehearsing it for months and finally decided to let it out over lukewarm takeout and 2 glasses of untouched wine. I didn't react right away. I think part of me refused to process it. I remember blinking slowly, looking at her across the table, trying to see if this was a joke or some twisted experiment in reverse psychology. But her eyes didn't flinch. She just sat there, fork in hand, waiting for me to respond like I was a bad contestant on some game show, and she had just buzzed me out. Sorry, I asked, though I'd heard every word. She set her fork down. I said you're not enough. Emotionally, intellectually, even physically, if I'm being honest. That was the moment I felt my entire chest cave in. Not all at once. It wasn't a crash. It was a quiet collapse. Like a building being demolished from the inside. No explosions, just the silent surrender of a foundation that had been cracking for years. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just sat there, watching her, trying to locate the version of her I'd married. But she wasn't in the room anymore. We'd been together for 6 years, married for 4. I met her at a friend's engagement party. She wore a backless black dress and carried herself like someone who knew exactly how much attention she could command and still pretend she didn't want it. I was a nobody, then still am, technically. I work in tech support for a mid-tier software firm, spend my evenings reading thrillers and tinkering with side projects that never see the light of day. She was magnetic. At least that's what everyone said. She had that kind of performative confidence that made every room she entered feel smaller, like the walls had to step back to make space for her. And I was safe, stable, predictable. She told me that once, early in our relationship, when she was drunk and affectionate. You're the calm after every storm, she said, curling into me like I was home. I've never had that. I remember thinking that was the most romantic thing anyone had ever said to me. But somewhere between the mortgage payments and her new promotion, something shifted. At first, it was little things, sarcastic jabs that didn't feel playful, unexplained weekends with her marketing team. The way her eyes glazed over when I spoke about anything that wasn't directly useful to her next campaign. She worked in branding, corporate strategy for lifestyle influencers. She lived in a world of gloss and metrics, of curated captions and lighting angles. I didn't belong there, and eventually she stopped pretending I did. By the time she made her declaration that night, I think she'd already checked out. Maybe she thought those 4 words would be the final push I needed to walk away. Maybe she assumed I'd crumble and beg, or start some dramatic monologue about how I could be better. I didn't say much at all. I excused myself, walked to the sink, and poured out both glasses of wine. Thanks for dinner, I said, quiet and measured, before grabbing my jacket. She didn't stop me. She didn't call after me. I remember walking out into the street and realizing just how cold it had gotten. I hadn't brought a scarf, but I didn't go back for it. That night, I didn't sleep. I just sat in my car, parked outside a closed laundromat, staring at the flickering neon until the sky turned gray. I kept hearing her voice. You're not enough. And somewhere, deep in the static hum of my thoughts, a new one formed in response. One I didn't speak out loud, but would eventually let her hear, in a language she'd understand. You think this is what not enough looks like? Wait till you see what nothing feels like. I didn't bring up what she said. Not the next day. Not the one after. I kept my mouth shut. Lips stitched with disbelief and maybe even pride. I wouldn't give her the satisfaction of knowing how hard it hit. She acted like the conversation never happened anyway. Poured herself coffee the next morning, complimented the playlist I had on shuffle like she hadn't just told me I was a deficiency in human form. She even asked if I'd remembered to pay the power bill. It was surreal. Living with someone who could gut you one night and ask for almond milk the next. But I started watching her differently. I noticed the way she smiled at her phone while stirring her tea. Not a chuckle. Not a typical, my friend just sent a meme smile. No, this one had warmth. Excitement. A kind of breathless anticipation that she never wore around me anymore. There were other things, too. Like how her work trips increased. Suddenly she had 2 conferences back-to-back in cities I knew didn't host conferences in that field. Or the new lingerie that showed up in a small, sleek box on our doorstep, which she quickly whisked away into the bedroom before I could get a look. We hadn't been intimate in weeks. Maybe months. Yet she was dressing up for someone. It wasn't me. One night, she told me she was meeting her creative director for dinner to discuss branding synergy. I didn't even blink. I told her to have fun. She looked a little thrown off by that. Maybe she was expecting a fight. Some pushback. But I wasn't giving her the chance to play victim to a confrontation she clearly wanted. Instead, I offered to order in sushi and catch up on a tech webinar I'd been meaning to watch. She smiled like she'd won something. That night, I checked the shared calendar we once used to sync our lives. There were new entries. Some of them were private, marked with vague titles like prep session or studio consult. But one of them was left open by mistake, lunch with her at Soho House. We didn't know anyone named R. I clicked through her Instagram and noticed that she hadn't posted a photo of me in months. Her feed was full of stylized shots, cappuccinos with perfect foam hearts, moody skylines, her hand against some Art Deco wallpaper at a rooftop bar. But no trace of me. You'd think she was single. I clicked the tagged photos tab. There were fewer than usual. Maybe she was curating more. Maybe she was being careful. Still, I saw something. One of her influencer friends, Alyssa, the one with the fake British accent, had posted a boomerang from a night out. It lasted just half a second. But in that split second, I saw the side of my wife's face and a man's hand resting just a little too low on her back. His face was out of frame, but the familiarity between them wasn't. I took a screenshot. No idea why. Just instinct, maybe. That same week, she left her laptop open before heading out to another client shoot. I rarely touch her stuff. But this time, I opened the lid. No password. Just a Chrome tab with an email draft open, unsent but damning. It read, "Last night was everything. I needed that. God, I didn't realize how much I missed feeling wanted. It's like I forgot what it meant to be alive until you." She hadn't finished the sentence. But I didn't need her to. I closed the lid. That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about her finding someone new. This was about her finding someone better. In her eyes, I wasn't a person anymore. I was a placeholder. Something to lean on until she found the next branch sturdy enough to swing to. She thought she was ahead of me, that I'd stay frozen in the role of the lesser man. She didn't know I was already 5 steps ahead. She didn't know I was watching. And she damn sure didn't know I was planning. She still thought I didn't know. That was the part that made it so easy to smile. To pour her coffee in the morning. To ask about her client meetings without a twitch in my voice. She had no idea I'd already started tracking her. I wasn't being dramatic. I didn't install cameras or hack her phone. That's the kind of desperate move people make when they want to win the relationship back. I wasn't trying to win her. I just wanted the truth on my terms. Quiet. Private. Sharp enough to cut without ever raising my voice. I started with the calendar. Those vague events she kept adding? I copied every single one to my own private spreadsheet. Time, date, location. Cross-referenced them with credit card statements she never thought I checked. The restaurant she claimed to be grabbing a drink at? Her card was charged at a boutique hotel an hour later. Then there was the Uber history. She hadn't deleted her emails. I scanned the receipts and saw a ride that dropped her off at a townhouse 2 neighborhoods over for 3 hours. Returned home at 2:12 a.m. She told me she crashed at her coworker's place because everyone was too drunk to drive. I didn't confront her. That's what she expected. Confrontation would give her the upper hand, a reason to cry, scream, twist the narrative. Instead, I turned to someone else. Her best friend, Jules. Now, Jules and I had always gotten along. Not in the flirty way, but we'd had enough wine and dinner nights that she trusted me. So when I invited her to lunch one Saturday while my wife was working, she didn't hesitate. I didn't even have to say much. Just mentioned that I felt like we were growing distant, that maybe she'd seen changes too. Jules sipped her drink, looked out the window, and said, "She's been different since the Miami campaign." You know that, right? Miami campaign. That was 4 months ago. The timing lined up. She met someone out there, she added, softer this time. I don't know the guy, just that he works for one of her clients. I think they kept it going. She was weird about it when I asked. There it was. The confirmation I didn't even have to dig for. But the next part was even more valuable. She said something the other day that really bothered me. Jules continued, watching me. She joked that you were just background noise. Said she was too powerful now to be stuck playing house with someone who fixes software and wears knockoff sneakers. She waited to see how I'd react. I smiled. Jules looked guilty. I didn't want to believe she meant it. I thought you should know. I thanked her, paid for lunch, gave her a warm goodbye like nothing was wrong. But inside, something had crystallized. Not anger, not grief, something cleaner. That night, I started backing up files. Screenshots, GPS tags, credit card receipts, copies of her emails where she'd all but confessed, the photo from Instagram, the Uber logs, every puzzle piece in place. But I wasn't going to explode her world just yet. Not until she had something to lose. Because here's what she didn't realize. While she was busy playing the seductive executive, I had been quietly building something of my own. My side projects, those silly little apps and tools I tinkered with at night, had gained traction. One of them just got picked up by a startup accelerator. I had investors. Real ones. The same week she told me I wasn't enough, I signed a deal for equity that could retire me in 5 years. I didn't need her approval anymore. I didn't need her at all. But she needed her image, her network, her illusion of having it all together. That shiny, high-gloss mask she wore in every boardroom and on every podcast interview. That was her currency, and I was about to bankrupt it, all without ever raising my voice. It started with the email. Not to her. Not yet. To one of her brand partners, an Ecolux skincare line she'd been the face of for nearly a year. I found the contact on their press kit, attached a short, polite message. Thought you'd want to see this, considering your values on transparency and ethics. The woman representing your brand may not embody either. I attached 3 photos. One of her mid-laplock outside that townhouse. One of the draft email she'd left open. And one of her Instagram grid. Filtered, curated perfection. Juxtaposed with a screenshot of her deleted stories archive, where she'd once accidentally posted a man's hand holding hers across a wine glass. Captioned, "Finally understood." She deleted it within minutes. But I'd already saved it. I didn't hear back for 2 days. Then I checked her schedule and noticed a brand sync call had been replaced with reschedule TBD. Her tone that morning was agitated. She made 2 extra espressos and paced during her calls. I didn't ask why. By Friday, she'd lost another collab. Some brands are just too sensitive, she muttered, slamming her laptop shut. They read into things. I nodded, feigned sympathy. That sucks. She eyed me sideways, like she was trying to figure out if I'd caught the scent of blood. But I kept my face blank. I wasn't interested in the confrontation. I wanted the collapse. And it was already underway. Over the next 10 days, I seeded everything, quietly, anonymously. Screenshots to sponsors. Voicemails of her whispering to her mystery man sent to her agent by mistake. A few posts from a burner Reddit account questioning the authenticity of her boss babe image. I didn't have to fabricate anything. The truth, in context, was damning enough. And the best part? She still didn't know it was me. Every morning, she woke up with more damage control to do. Fewer DMs from clients. Fewer invites to PR events. Her once buzzing phone became a glowing brick of silence. Then came the big one. Her marketing agency, an all-female powerhouse she had publicly praised for championing empowered women, quietly removed her from their featured talent roster. No explanation. No email. Just gone. The same day, their Instagram posted a quote graphic. Integrity is louder than aesthetics. That night, she finally cracked. I don't get it, she muttered, pacing the kitchen. This isn't how it works. I control the narrative. I always have. I was drying dishes, watching her spiral, wordlessly. You think I'm crazy, don't you? No, I replied. I think you're unraveling. And that terrifies you. Her eyes narrowed. You always hated that I was the one with power. I smiled at her then, slow and cold. I never hated it. I just knew you'd eventually abuse it. For a moment, something flickered behind her eyes. A recognition, maybe. The tiniest suspicion. But she didn't have the proof. She still thought I was too passive. Too quiet. Too not enough. She hadn't yet realized what I'd taken from her. Not her dignity. Not her followers. Not even her income. I'd taken her illusion of control. And she was panicking. That weekend, she tried to rebrand. Started posting nostalgic photos of us. Long-winded captions about resilience, rebuilding, and rediscovering joy with the man who's always been there. She even tagged me. I didn't like the post. I didn't comment. But I sent it to her affair partner's wife, who, thanks to my anonymous tip, had just filed for divorce. I included the screenshots of their messages, the hotel receipts, and her voice memos. The woman replied with a single sentence. Thank you for giving me my clarity back. You're welcome. It was a Tuesday when she came home early. No warning. No bags. No calls. Just the sound of the front door opening an hour before sunset and the sudden quiet shuffle of her heels against the hardwood. I was in the living room, reading, pretending not to wait for her next collapse. She stood in the doorway like a child who'd wandered too far and finally realized no one was chasing her. "I lost the partnership," she said softly. I nodded. She hesitated. "Not just the brand. All of them. Every single one." I closed the book. "They say there's been a smear campaign. Someone's been spreading lies about me." "No one lied," I said. She flinched. That landed harder than I expected. There was a long pause. Then, "You." I didn't answer. That silence did the work for me. She sat down across from me like she needed the ground to stop moving. Her eyes weren't sharp anymore. No sparkle. Just this flickering, unfocused dullness of someone watching the empire she built sink brick by brick into the earth. "I didn't mean what I said," she offered. "About you not being enough." "You did," I said. "And it's okay. I believe you now." Her voice cracked. "Please don't do this. I need you." That was the thing. She didn't want me. Not in the way you're supposed to want someone you build a life with. She needed me now like a drowning woman needs a raft, not for love, but survival. "I needed you too," I said. "Once." She reached out, barely touching the edge of the coffee table. "Can we fix this?" "You burned the blueprint," I replied. "And I already started rebuilding. Just not with you." That's when it broke her. Her shoulders folded in, like some invisible scaffolding had collapsed. Tears came, not the fake, strategic kind she used to squeeze out during brand interviews, but the real, raw ones. The ugly kind. No filter. No audience. Just pain. "I made a mistake," she whispered, over and over. "I made a mistake. I didn't think you'd leave. You didn't think I'd matter," I corrected. She looked at me with such hollow desperation I almost felt pity. Almost. But pity doesn't resurrect trust. And it sure as hell doesn't fix betrayal. I stood. Picked up the folder I'd prepared 2 weeks ago. Inside were the divorce papers. My lawyer was precise, surgical. Everything split clean. I didn't want her money, didn't want revenge. I wanted out, and she knew better than to fight now that her entire image had been decimated. She looked down at the folder like it was written in a language she never learned. "But we were building something," she whimpered. "No," I said. "I was building something. You were just designing the wallpaper." There was nothing left to say. I walked to the door and turned one last time, not to hurt her, but to let her hear the echo of her own words in the only way that truly landed. "You once said I wasn't enough." She looked up. I stepped out. "Now you get to see what nothing really looks like." And I closed the door.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.